Welcome to Cult Connections. Let's see what we are taking a sideways look at today.
We have a great theme there for this week, and it kind of came around after an episode that me and you did, Mark, way back. So we there covered the British blood curdling their corporation. So three their BBC their dramas that were that really scared the nation, put the frighteners on them.
Yeah.
And we've got another three here that show a future. They're England mostly, or there's a bit of Wales. There's not really much mention of their Scotland, but so a future England, and it's a fascist future England. So it's speculative, their fiction, as it were. But one thing that I was sort of struck by, Mark, is that how sort of relevant these shows they still are.
A little bit too relevant, scary relevant, I would say. I didn't have a great time with these, not because of the quality, although diminishing returns on certainly a couple of them. But yeah, I think there's a few points where as we go through them, I'll point out that's where I think it's going. That's next. I think the next 10, 20 years, we're not far off.
Yeah. There's some really relevant stuff there, and I was really quite struck by certainly on one of them, and when we get to it, just how sort of topical it is, even just over the past sort of 2 weeks or so. Amazingly sort of topical, and quite sort of scary for things that are made over 40 years ago as well. It's like, just still really relevant. So we're going to go all the way back to the 1971 there to start with a show called the Guardians. And this isn't a show that I'd really heard of there before until I started doing some their research. So it's set in an England in the 1980s, and the UK has been broken up, and England is now ruled by a fascist military force called the Guardians, and so a 13 part their series, they're 45-minute episodes, but I really, first off, Mark, I really liked this. I was really struck by it. What were your first sort of thoughts about
it? I did enjoy it. I did think, I've got to be honest from the onset, I did think it was a little bit too talky.
Mm-hmm.
I did think that the section, and I've only watched episode 1, so perhaps this is going to come into play, but I thought the section talking to the doctor just seemed to be very drawn out, dragged out, and the doctor, and I think the point is the doctor isn't listening, the psychiatrist isn't listening, but it was very kind of, I don't know, that bit I was waiting for something to happen, and then the second half of the episode, bam, boy does it happen. It gets really good, but the setting up, I don't know, the setting of everything was very 1970s London weekend television for me, sadly.
Yeah, no, I get that, I do. So it is very talky. It is mostly people talking in their rooms, and as it goes on, I mean, I've watched up to episode 8 now.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there quite sort of gripped by it, actually, and but it is a lot of sort of character based sort of drama. It's all about they're the characters, and they're the situations that they find themselves in. Now, what I will say about the psychiatrist, their character that you've mentioned, his story arc perhaps goes in they're places that you didn't think it would go, Mark. So it's
Okay.
definitely, yeah. So there's a good sort of payoff there. It's definitely worth sticking with, and I am going to watch them all because I must admit I'm really uh, quite sort of taken by it.
There's only about 10 or 12, isn't there? There's not too many.
13, yeah,
13. Okay.
yeah. So for the nuts and bolts of it, so they're created by Rex Firkin and Vincent the Tilsley. Great names, I think.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. I loved that. So their Firkin was actually best known for Upstairs, They're Downstairs, which is a classic. Not really my kind of drama, but I know it is very well sort of thought of. So, and their Tilsley worked on the Forsyte saga. That was his big
Oh, right.
big
Yeah,
show.
I
So
remember that as a kid.
yeah, and they're The Prisoner as well. He wrote some episodes for that. So
Oh, right. Okay.
yeah, so again another cult sort of classic, definitely. Now there is a huge sort of cast. I'm not going to go over them all because there's far too many. Cyril the Luckham plays Sir Timothy Hobson. He is the minister. We have Gwyneth the Powell as Claire Weston, who is an ordinary person, a working class sort of person in this sort of drama, and Derek Smith is Dennis. The Norman, who is a civil servant and a rather slippery chap as well. There is a whole host of other actors, but
You missed my favourite when I messaged you excitedly when I saw John Collin was in it. Bradford's very own John Collin. Fantastic actor. The Persuaders? Question mark. Was he in the Persuaders? Am I imagining that?
probably. I think
Possibly.
just
Yeah.
about everyone was in
Yeah.
something else at some point. So
Yeah, one of those really recognisable voices of kind of he's playing it a little bit kind of southern, but he's quite blatantly really northern. He's
yeah.
quite kind of a clipped northern accent. Yeah.
So we have actually mentioned it's very sort of studio bound, but the episode itself starts with for sort of British television at the time a fairly big sort of set sort of piece. So there's a sort of riot or a protest going on or a strike. Actually, I think it's a strike, and we see the Guardians. So they are a jackbooted sort of force, and they come in and they're basically telling them, look, you can't this strike. England these days, it doesn't sort of do that, and ends up in their violence. And I was quite sort of taken by that. A very bold way to kind of set things up.
Northern and Welsh actors were the ones striking as well, which, and I know this is early 70s, but fast forward 12, 13 years and that becomes really, very, very, very difficult to swallow. Now, I don't bang on about it a lot, Ian, as you know, but I grew up during the miners' strike.
Yeah.
In a coal mine in town, to coal mining father, uncle, grandfathers. So, yeah, the whole thing about striking, and a little bit later on we mentioned that striking is to be made illegal, really gave me a bit of a shudder, internally at least.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good way there to start things. But did you notice who one of the strikers was? Did you?
I thought I'd recognised Windsor Davis, but I wasn't 100% sure.
No, it absolutely
No.
is Windsor Davis.
It is. I thought it was, but no moustache, no usual moustache, kind of put me off. And I was like, but that voice, it has to be Windsor Davis, doesn't it? And then before I knew it, he'd gone.
Yeah, I mean, all he had to say was their lovely boy, and then you would have known exactly who it was. So
yeah, or having a complaining friend in an antique shop. Let's do an episode where we cover Never the Twain, shall we?
well, funnily enough, if my mate there, Chris, is there listening, so there, Chris, who I just covered the Doctor Who with just the other day, he loves Never the
Oh
Twain.
well,
I think he's
I'll
watched them all.
renege on that. It's great,
No,
yeah, fantastic fun.
well, I'm not hugely there convinced that a Never the Twain episode will be happening, but who knows? You
You
know
could
this.
do an antiques related thing, so you could do that. You could do the Acorn Antiques and an episode of Lovejoy. There you go. There's your episode.
Marvelous. Oh, that sounds. You know what?
But you can do that with somebody
Oh,
else because that sounds really boring.
that
On you come, Chris.
he would probably love that. Sorry, apologies there, Chris, if you are listening. Um, so, but I mean, what we do see very much and it gets into to the to the to the guts of the episode, as it were, and what we do start to see is a few different sort of strands going on. So we do have the Western. So the husband, he is a captain in uh, the Guardians. His wife is obviously, they're affected by this. It's making her feel unwell. We see we see the civil the servant character. He's obviously got his own um uh, the sort of agenda, and then we see the prime the minister as well, and um one thing I am sort of struck by, and as you watch the series as it goes on, though 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 Mark, is that um whoever's pulling things at the top, there's a lot of power games going on. It's not quite as set in sort of stone as you think it is.
Yeah, I think the thing that surprised me the most was how little control the prime minister had, and I do understand politics. I get, I've been around politics my whole adult life, but I just thought it was quite jarring that the prime, the sections where the prime minister says, "So can I ask?" He asked the secretary, "Can I ask?" And the chap, he was a real smarmy bastard, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, yes, you can ask." And it's kind of like, oh, now I've got it, so this formality and this and the hoops that he makes him jump through, and then just won't tell him. He asks about when are they refer to them as the G's,
Yeah.
which I think, and he won't have it. They've got to be called the Guardians, but I think the G's kind of makes them a little more personable. I think the G's sounds a little bit more,
Mm,
a lot less authoritarian, I think is probably
yeah.
the term I'm looking for. But yeah, every time he says the Jesus, I'll refer you to call them the Guardians. Oh God, and I couldn't help thinking that the Prime Minister's not the bad guy here.
No, no. It's funny that goes on. I mean, and sort of talking ahead, there's some power battles, and what there is sort of conflict within the characters about what they are sort of doing. Is it right? Um, because what we see in this is that like the prime minister or the cabinet is, they are sort of figureheads. How much sort of power do they have? We're not that sure. Um, but we do see as it goes on that that's kind of in a state of sort of flux. So there is sort of battles, as it were, and perhaps that the state and actually the guardians are not as in their power as we think they are. So, and sets up some really great their sort of drama. Um, and it's funny because I mean I do watch a lot of sort of classic cult sort of telly. I mean, I do love it, and um, budgets are tiny, but 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 the character based drama is always really well sort of done, and I did feel that this was the same.
I think if it's written well, you can forgive the fact that everything's like a staged set. You can forget that, and there's barely anything up until the very very end where it's an on it's an on location shoot.
Yeah, yeah, It is. It's very much they they're sort of studio bound. Um, I just wanted to touch on some of the little sort of details in it, Mark, about and ones that may be set up, because I think for a show like this, you have to they sort of believe that this is a world that maybe could exist, or that it's fleshed out quite sort of well. So there's lots of elements that they're sort of familiar to us, and look like sort of Britain as we know it, like the Prime Minister and the cabinet are obviously. I mean, that's the same as what we've got now. Although the ones we have now are an absolute shower, um, but for things like just sort of little bits, I thought um, it didn't attempt to be too they're sort of futuristic either, um, which I thought was a good thing actually.
I think the only things that there's a couple of little bits where I was thinking it seemed futuristic was the bit where she goes into the doctor's office and everybody's got a card.
Yeah,
Everybody's got and you put the card in the machine and that tells you kind of who you are and brings it up on the system. But that was as futuristic as this episode got. Everything else was very. I mean, I think there's a car or a at the start when they're fighting off when they're trying to break up the strike, the car was quite, or the whatever he was on was pretty futuristic. But yeah, other than that, I couldn't have placed the year that this was made if I didn't know.
yeah, yeah. Um, the westerns, they're flats. It's quite a little bit. It looks a little bit. They're sort of futurist, or as this is over 50-year-old now, sort of retro sort of futurism. But I did
Yeah.
quite like some of the their furniture that they had. I did.
Yeah, I liked that a lot. Retrofuturism is one of my favourite kind of genres of of pictures or writing. I love looking at stuff and thinking, even non-ironically, this is what people thought it was going to look like. Even watching,
Yeah,
example, Alien. So you can watch Alien, you can look at that, and that's fantastic. Retrofuturism. Now that we're 40 odd years down, 45 years down the line, but for me, that I look at a lot of properties for my day job, and I've been in a lot of places that are just as pokey as that. They were literally a bed, a kitchen, a sitting bit, and the bathroom was off shot.
yeah,
He was just shouting from the bathroom.
yeah. Um, now, now there's a great scene where when Norman, that's a civil servant, he sends his nephew, who looks about 5 years younger than him, um, to 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 enlist in the G. So there's a great scene with the captain and the nephew, and their you know he's not very sure about him there, the captain. He's like, who's this sort of posh guy, coming
Yeah,
along and trying to be, wanting to be in the Guardians. But did you notice, Mark, the their poster sitting there behind him? Because there's a great slogan on it.
there is and it is a Guardians poster, isn't it? It's like is it a Guardians recruitment poster? I've watched this. I watched some more of this again this morning. I didn't watch the whole thing, and I did half watch this scene while I was pottering about.
Uh-huh.
So I did spot it, but I can't tell you what it says.
Right. Okay. So it very relevantly says, and their American their listeners might like this one. It says, "England made great again."
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I was like,
It's a bit close to the bone, isn't it? But you're right about the kind of the power between these two characters, and I think that the captain, again, not very very certain, but not particularly posh, and the other guy super posh, just out of the army. We find out very sure of himself, decides to light up a smoke, and your man won't have it. Not what you want to do.
yeah,
And this whole thing is played at the same time as Mrs. Weston is at the doctor's
yeah,
next door. They're in the same.
yeah,
They're in the
probably,
same waiting room. I'm
yeah,
sure, aren't they? And one goes through one door, and the other goes through the other. And she wants a cigarette and all this kind of. And I was kind of like, as a I've never smoked. As a non-smoker, I was kind of. Were we that obsessed with cigarettes in the early 70s?
oh yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, aye, yeah. Smoking went on all of the time, and even now nothing there to do with the Guardians, but talking about retro, the futurism, Mark. But if you watch Jerry Anderson's The UFO and the moon their base, all of the blokes are smoking massive their cigars, and I'm always like, yeah, really, on the moon in your pressurized space station. Are you really smoking a cigar?
Yeah.
So yeah, smoking fags everywhere.
Yeah, your man, the posh boy in this. I almost expected the casting director or the director had said, "Get me Michael York," and the casting director said, "Michael York's really expensive, sir."
Yeah.
Well, get me a bloke who kind of looks a little bit like him.
Yeah, definitely. The psychiatrist character is really quite funny now. Now, in my line of work, I've met a lot of their psychiatrists, and to be fair, he's not like any of them. I was almost they're sort of appalled by him. I was like really?
He doesn't ask her anything about herself.
No.
It's all about him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was really quite awful.
Maybe he's a podcaster pretending to be a psychiatrist.
Maybe, or again, and we've seen a lot. I mean, I'm watching the Moon Knight, just now. I know that you are as well, Mark. And there's mental health still isn't sort of portrayed in the way that I find it in any of the environments that I've worked in. Mental health clinics are not like they are in any film I have watched, to be honest. So, but anyway, by the by, for you, Mark, thoughts about this?
Do you know what the Guardians I think is the best of the three that we watched, and I am going to go back to it, especially because it ended really excitingly. It ended fantastically excitingly. The talky bits were not really for me, but it's something I can watch at the gym on my phone while I'm on the bike or while I'm on the treadmill without worrying that there might be some boobs in it. There's someone looking over my shoulder. There was also a bit where the uncle of the posh guy, and again, I'm terrible with names, but the uncle of the posh guy is doing the world's biggest jigsaw. He's like, oh, this is impossible. Mate, it's only like it's for like ages 6 and under, that one. What's wrong with you?
No, I was funnily enough, Matt, I was watching that bit again just this morning, and I was like, I don't think you really have to ponder over the last two pieces too hard. It's not a difficult.
It doesn't
one.
end too well for Michael York's character, Michael York's non-union character, does it?
No.
Particularly,
it does not.
It doesn't end
no
well
spoilers,
for him at all.
because you can watch all of the episodes on the YouTube. So and they're pleased they do. Like I say, I'm up to episode 8. You've mentioned about the talky bits, Mark, because
Hmm.
and I did just want to mention episode 2 because Richard Herndl turns up, who's best known actually as the replacement for William the Hartnell in the 5 the Doctors. So he plays the first the Doctor in that. In episode 2, he plays the Director General of the BBC, or of the EBC, I think it's called. So,
Right.
and there's lengthy scenes with him and Cyril the Luckham talking, but they are brilliant. They are absolutely brilliant, and he is superb in them. And the drama that makes for it is so good. So I would recommend that. I think once you
I
watch
think
episode 2, you'll be like, yeah.
Yeah, I think if like me, listeners, you're a regular listener to this, and you'll like the kind of stuff that Ian and I like. Watch episode 1, and in spite of the fact that maybe I could cut 10 minutes out of it, once you get to that last scene, if you're not hooked and ready to go on to episode 2, I would be greatly surprised because
Yeah.
the pace up's no end at
Yeah.
the very, very end. And I love the fact that you mentioned Doctor Who. There's a kind of a Doctor Who theme going into the next one, isn't there?
A little bit. Well, yeah, there is. Yeah, and some other great their sci-fi shows as well.
Yeah.
There's a huge character who is one of my favourites, which we will mention shortly. I do just want. So, lastly, Mark, I do just wanted to touch on the theme, the music, because that's the one thing I was actually a little bit they're sort of disappointed in. So the main theme, it's not great.
No.
I thought it could be a bit more sort of striking.
Yeah. The kind of the break music was a little bit what that doesn't really fit either.
Well, I like the break music a little bit more, but not much. Not You're right. So it could have done their better with that. However, saying that, I liked it. I like the fact that you saw where the advert breaks were,
Yeah.
and it was nice to see the old, London Weekend, their television, their logo again. That is,
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah.
The one thing I did find out about this was just due to the time it was released and the subject matter, it wasn't broadcast on Ulster TV at all because of the subject matter and because of a authoritarian English police.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense when you think about it now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. So we are going to move on now. We're going to move on to 1987, and funnily enough, a show that was written as a sort of children's sort of drama, a drama for children, and I'm like,
children, a drama
really?
for children. Jesus.
Oh my God. So we are talking about the lovingly titled Knights of God. Now I don't remember watching this, and I was trying to find some of their broadcast details for it, but I did actually struggle.
I'd assumed, because Rachel and I sat and watched this together. My wife, Rachel and I sat and watched this together. I assumed that Rachel assumed it must have been a southern thing that we didn't get in central, north, and Scotland.
Yeah,
because I think it was made by Television South or somebody like that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
it says at the start.
Yeah.
And all I could think was we must just have not got it. But it could be one of those things that was on a Saturday morning after whatever the TV show was at the time, number 73 or whatever. Possibly then. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is the year 2020, and the Britain is split into north and south. The royal family has been deposed, and the England and sort of Wales are now governed by by the Knights of God. So this fascist organisation who use a lot of sort of religious imagery, and they call themselves knights or priors and all kinds of nonsense. But this is so we talk about a lack of sort of action from the Guardians, but this one marks action packed, isn't it?
You're straight into it, aren't you? And kind
Yeah.
of like, what is going on here? Freedom fighting fishermen, Portland Bill, they're all at it. They've all got automatic weapons, and as soon as it starts, they're kind of opening up this thing, and here comes Airwolf. England's answer to Airwolf.
I was amazed by this. So just their sort of production value. So like I say, so there's a band of sort of freedom fighters, and they're going after their convoy, and helicopters and explosions, and lots of action. I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and I always like the Welsh myself. Always been a big fan. So, lads, if you want to come and save us at any point, that'd be great. But it's this. It's almost religious, isn't it? What they do in this. There's obviously it's knights, and there's other characters called brothers, such as monks and things like that, and it's a north-south, exactly as you said, a north-south divide. But there's a section where the main character was it Julian Fellows, his character? Bloody hell, Julian Fellows is in this.
Uh-huh.
But he's saying, and what we want is our friends in the industrial heartlands of the Midlands to help us. And it's kind of, but what about the North? And it's only later on do you find out that it's like Mad Max anywhere above Nottingham.
So this was written by Richard De Cooper. So again, 13 episodes, only they're 26 minutes. So and as we know, that's the right sort of length for a children's drama. I still really can't they believe that they thought that this was this.
Yeah, are we supposed to believe that the main character is a child? He looks about 40.
I mean, there is so there is, I mean, so we have George the Winter, who is the Gervais Edwards, great Welsh name they going on there. His father is the fabulous Gareth Thomas.
Brilliant, isn't he?
As did Owen Edwards. Like we say, we have John the Woodvine. He is Prior Mordrin. He is the chief of. Is he King there Arthur? Is that is that who would meant the thing? And Julian Fellows as their brother Hugo, amongst many others. The cast here is quite fabulous, actually.
Yeah, his mum. I spotted his mum. Mrs. Edwards was the out of Band of Gold, and she was Mrs. Bucket's sister Rose in Keeping Up Appearances.
Oh, brilliant! Patrick, the Troughton is in it. The Owen, the Teal turns up. He's a great actor.
Owen Teal's fantastic. Yeah, he's in a lot of good stuff. He was in a good 4 or 5 series of Game of Thrones, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
He's fantastically Welsh. Proper kind of character actor. Yeah.
Well, now like we picked up on this. Obviously, Doctor Who. They sort of Troughton. This was his last broadcast. The series. This was so, but. And I couldn't work out what sort of happened to you, because it was broadcast in 1987, but it was made in 1985, so there was a big gap.
Okay.
Yeah, haha. So He did go on and make some other stuff, but this was the last thing that was the sort of broadcast before he passed away. Now, Mark, I don't know how familiar you are with their Blake's their Seven. I don't know how
Not as
well
much
you.
as I should be, but
Uh-huh,
since I got BritBox, I'm kind of getting there. Yeah.
right, because I did wonder if sort of Gareth Thomas is basically playing a proto Rog Blake in a way. I mean, this was made after Blake's Seven,
Yeah.
but
I never thought of
well,
that.
he's a freedom fighter. Um, the Knights of God or the troopers look very similar to the Blake Seven. They're sort of troopers as well. It's quite similar. Their sort of costumes, so it did give me sort of Blake Seven vibes. Could this be the kind of world that would evolve into what we saw in that show?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Why not? Everybody in Blake Seven comes from the Welsh Rebellion. Yeah, I'm up for that.
Who knows? Who knows indeed. I think though, Mark, so we've touched on it. It's action packed. There's obviously there's sort of religious sort of themes, but it's quite sort of dark, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd written here on my notes Welsh propaganda, and I'd specifically written that bit when they were all kind of ushered into this church to watch this broadcast, and they're all given flags. What are we supposed to do with these? Wave them when I tell you. And at the end, they play this anthem, and nobody gets up and waves, and nobody does anything. And then the old boys at the back, quite blatantly not actors and just blokes from the local choir, from the local pit kind of choral society, get up and start singing. Now, watching this on YouTube, the quality was shocking. Not the worst quality of anything you've ever asked me to watch on YouTube, I'll be honest. But the quality was absolutely shocking. So I couldn't figure out what they were singing. My Welsh is non-existent. So I don't know what they were singing. I assume a Welsh freedom song, but I don't think it was Land of My Fathers, which is the
No.
most song.
So well, I do have the odd listener in their Wales. So if you can watch a little bit of their Knights of God, maybe you can tell us what they are singing.
But they don't wave any flags, do they?
No, they do not. No.
No, good.
Funnily enough, and I mean, what I found quite sort of stark about it was now all of these shows hint that they're sort of camps or sort of training center type things. That's a theme that actually runs through them all. But this actually showed you the children and the women getting rounded up and they're carted off to these
Shipped
these
off at the
camps.
back
Yeah,
of these wagons.
yeah,
And you're kind of like, well, what's going to happen here? And Di, we've already mentioned Di very very briefly. Owen Teal, he's kind of pretending to be one of these police. Kind of one of these police knights, isn't he? And
yeah.
he says, "Look, I'm undercover. I'm doing what I can to kind of help." And he ends up getting lumbered in, and they all get, sent off to Northumbria.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did laugh at that. I was like,
Which did make me laugh.
just,
To be bound in service for all time.
yeah.
Which was the note I made.
From the cast, obviously, there's some great actors here. Gareth Thomas, he is a favourite of mine. But Julian Fellows, now, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to be quite sort of blunt. Now, his character is a bit of an arse. And quite frankly, I think Fellows himself is probably a bit of an arse as well.
Absolutely,
isn't he?
yeah.
So
play to what you know.
Well, it's funny because I was thinking, I mean, Fellows sucks up to like the aristocracy and they're the royal family, and we see that in Downton Abbey and all of his other sort of stuff. And he does just seem like a toady, sort of sycophant.
Yeah, yeah. People love him though, don't they? They love they love Downton Abbey and Gosford Park and all that. Gosford Park's pretty good actually, but yeah, they love all that upstairs downstairs nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yes, yeah, stuff that I will not be rushing to their sort of cover. So just to round off, Mark, again, we've spoke about sort of futuristic bits, and this does have, or it tries to have some sort of elements. So the Knights of God head sort of quarters has got TV screens and all kinds of stuff, doesn't it? It was I did quite like that bit.
Yeah, I liked that as well. I mean, it wasn't quite a Death Star, really. I mean, if the rebels have obtained a complete technical reading of the station, it is possible, but it's not likely that they find a weakness and exploit it, because Don Henderson's in this as well, Ian. Don Henderson was in it, Lord Vader. And I was absolutely delighted to see Delta and the Bannerman's Don Henderson.
Oh dear,
so,
dear.
Just to add more Doctor Who stuff.
Well, I mean, John Woodfine's in. He actually turns up in a great Doctor Who story from the 1970s. Which again, Doctor Who fans and my good mates are going to they crucify me because I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, which is absolutely awful.
And as we know from a previous episode, my 70s Doctor Who knowledge isn't great, so I can't add anything.
No, but yeah, he does. He plays a great character. Actually, quite a similar one there to this, but yeah,
yeah. Don Henderson and his rebels are just waiting for this convoy to turn up, and they're ready to kind of gun everybody down. And this is the all action kind of bit of it. I think he's called Coley or something.
Yeah,
that's that. And again, that was probably my favourite bit of it. The more I think about it, the more I didn't hate it. It was my least favourite of the three.
Yeah,
but the cast was exceptional. The casting in this is better than anything in any of the others. Again, I guess it's probably 6 or 7 episodes, and it took them no more than 30 days to film. You would have thought.
Well, actually, it's 13 episodes, Mark. And
bloody hell, I'm not going to watch 13 episodes of this.
Well, it is only 25 minutes, but no, I'm probably not either, or not in any rush to. I probably will sort of finish it, but yeah. So we are going to move on now, and this is so what we're going to talk about next is the show that actually got me started thinking about this. So this is where the research came from, and I'd read little bits about this one, and was quite sort of fascinated by it, and thought, oh, right, okay. So we're talking about 1990 from 1977, funnily enough, which is their 16 episodes, they're 50 minutes. But what sort of struck me first of all, Mark, and what sort of piqued their sort of curiosity was Edward Woodward. So he is the main character, and it's like, well, he's good value, so.
Yeah. Now this, I thought this started quite dry, but as the episode went on, I thought I could see myself watching the whole series of this.
Yeah,
I could see myself getting very much like the Guardians, getting into this because I'm learning about. I don't know. There's been some world building there.
Yeah,
there's been some pretty good world building, but we're only seeing a tiny little bit of it.
Yeah, definitely. So this one, it's set set in their 1990. Obviously, in their 1997, that seemed, far, far away. So in the dystopian future Britain, which is under the grip of the Home Office Public Control Department, a tyrannically oppressive bureaucracy ruling roughshod over the population's their liberties. Now, I'm not sure about how to pronounce this guy's name. So it's created by Wilfred
Greater
Gratore.
X. Greater
Greater
X. And I only know because
Uh-huh.
my stepsister married a man called Greater X.
Right. Okay. So it is Greater
There you
X.
go.
I was like,
Yeah, that's how they pronounce it anyway.
so there's some good day credits from Wilfred Greater X. The Power Game, which was a big sort of 60s the show, very sort of
Yeah.
popular. He also wrote The Battle of Britain.
All right. Wow.
So some decent credits there.
Mm.
Edward Woodward plays the main character. He's the journalist. Jim, the Kyle. Barbara Kellerman is Delhi Lomas, who was a civil servant. I think she's part of the public control department. Again, there's loads of other well-known sort of actors in this one, but I was very struck by how relevant this feels to right now.
There's loads in this for me that I didn't like. It was about certainly England, if not Britain, being cut off from the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
There's getting basically the brightest and the best out of the country illegally. It felt like that at some point may be the only way, if you are the brightest and best, to get
Mm-hmm.
out of the country. In maybe 10, 15, 20 years. So yeah, and erosion of your civil liberties as well seems to be ongoing. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And then interesting angle, I thought. So Jim there, Kyle, he's the journalist. We see the newspaper office, the other people working there, the sort of editor. Now they're probably working for something similar to say the Guardian, so a more left leaning sort of newspaper. Like they're not, and they do say, look, there are other newspapers are basically under government, their sort of control. They're not. So they're really living on the edge, and I did get a sense of sort of danger about that.
Yeah, it was very much a matter of he wants to, not only does he want to break open, but the story, but he's also got this second role of basically just trying to get, there's a bit later on where he's helping get a doctor out, and he's working closely with this guy who they've trained to be was it a civil engineer or a computer engineer or something like that.
Yeah,
the chap wants to go to America.
Yeah.
And it's and as we learn as it goes on, people can just come into your house. The government can just come into your house if they think you're doing some wrongdoing.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, is that next?
It's I mean, and that's it. I mean, they're finding there's sort of bugs on them. There's tracking their devices. Although they do have good ways of actually foiling this. So there's that sort of element of um, uh, counteracting what the government are sort of doing. um, which was really good. But it does, again, talking about this sort of futuristic, this sort of feel about it. So this does go certainly further than what the Guardians sort of does. So it does hint at the tech technology, being there used. And I was very struck by the character who sits in this big circular pod thing.
Yeah.
And he's the chief. Their sort of tracker, with loads of TV screens, and he's got loads of buttons in his big circular, their cockpit type.
Yeah, like
type
like
thing.
the pod Vader lives in.
Yeah, a bit like that,
yeah,
actually. Yeah,
yeah. For me, it had a real kind of proper 1984ish feel in that it was just grim. I mean,
yeah,
there was no kind of, none of the houses seemed nice. It all seemed to be filmed on one of these huge 70s concrete, brutalist housing estates that, in northwest London.
yeah,
You kind of horrible looking thing. And then when they did film it somewhere else, like trying to get to the airport or at the docks, they were the worst airport or the worst docks.
yeah,
It was really, really grim. Everything was, I don't know, nothing. There was nothing. There's nothing nice. There's no huge kind of parade area. There's nowhere where the government are going to meet somewhere nice, like in the Guardians. There's no open rolling hills like there is in the Knights. This is just grim 70s London.
yeah, definitely. I mean, and I was quite sort of taken by, like you say, Mark, how sort of stark it is. But like the sequence of actually trying there to smuggle people out of the country. Now, this is what struck me about modern day sort of Britain. So we have a government who at the moment panders to the worst elements of their society, in our dealings with refugees. And it's not immigrants, it's refugees, people who are seeking asylum in their Britain there just now. We have seen over the past 2 weeks this awful scheme to take people to Rwanda, of all places. That well-known, their sort of democracy
Yeah.
and place where human rights are respected so well. So our current government is going to ship refugees, people seeking asylum, off to Africa, thousands of miles away, and to probably never be seen or they're heard of again, quite frankly.
Yeah.
This show sees people being smuggled out of Britain, in a very similar situation. It's
on
just
on Concorde, three of them she mentions.
Yeah.
Three of the three immigrants got out on Concorde. And you're kind of like, wow, that's of an age. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's almost like we're the we're the authoritarian dystopian country that people want to escape from, instead of at the moment where people are leaving a hellhole to come here. And
Yeah.
Things have to be bad wherever you are to want to come to Britain today. With
Yeah.
certainly, and I'm not going to single out specifically, but specifically people in the south of England, for you to want to come to for somebody to want to come here to get abused by some of the people that live in the south of England,
Yeah.
And the north of England as well, I guess.
Well, I
but,
mean, the attitudes are everywhere, but it is absolutely sickening. But I was sort of struck by, God, this is portraying a a our country, well, or where we live. I don't really think of it
No.
as my country, but where we live, as a place where you actively try to get out of, and in a way now the Edward Woodward character, who is actually part of the process for people to leave the country, um, but he's a people smuggler, isn't it? Or that's how he would be sort of portrayed as. He's a people smuggler, you know. I mean, they do mention that there is a cost to it. There is a monetary cost, but that would make sense for, actually having to bribe people, get you on there to the boats out of, or the planes, or, all of that stuff. And I was just like, God, this is very similar to the world we are living in at the moment.
Yeah, creepily, like eerily similar. Yeah.
Yeah. They're sort of performance-wise. I mean, Edward Woodward is always he's good value. He is a proper star, and you can see it in this. The Barbara Kellerman as well is quite their striking, and that is another Doctor Who their connection.
All right, okay,
Yeah,
I missed that one.
So she pops up in Ghostlight in the Sylvester McCoy era.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure it's Ghostlight. I think.
Coronation Street's Fred Elliott ever in Doctor Who?
No.
No, I didn't think so.
But he is in Blake 7.
He is in Blake 7. Okay,
yes, he
right.
is.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's also in very, very briefly in Hudson Hawk, which is a Bruce Willis film that we put on our podcast. Yeah, he's very, very briefly an auctioneer in Hudson Hawk.
A superb actor, actually. He's got his. He does use a northern accent in this, much like Fred Elliott. Funnily enough, he's a bit more proper in the Blake 7. So
yeah, northerner though. I think he's from Manchester. Well spoken.
Yeah, he must be. Yeah,
well-spoken.
Yeah. But a great actor nonetheless. But one thing I liked about this, Mark, and probably just maybe to just round things off with sort of this one, but this has got the best theme, their tune, out of the three of them.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I didn't really know what was going on in the opening titles, though. This kind of this white room kind of. I was like, oh, is this what this is about? Is this? Yeah. Is it? Am I to expect them to walk through the door there, and they're going to be, they're going to be hunted down because they're all over 25? What's going on here? And it wasn't. Yeah, that wasn't anything to do with really the vast majority of the film.
No.
Sure.
I have watched episode 2 and a fair chunk of episode 3. It does kind of. Episode 2 feels fairly similar to the first one, again, about trying to get people out of the country. The relationship with Edward Woodward and Barbara Kellerman's expanded on a bit, so there might even be a little bit of hunky pankies.
All right, okay.
Well, it's maybe kind of hinted at that might happen, but then in episode 3 we see a sort of clinic where the people are being, they're sort of treated for their sort of seditious thoughts.
So was this that he mentions at one point, doesn't he? He mentions ARC. I'd noted that, and that was adult rehabilitation centres.
Yeah. So there is a bit of that, and so yeah, I do think as well. I think I will sort of persevere. I will watch an episode at a time as as I can. But I will finish
Yeah,
the Guardians first. So
yeah. I think probably I'll go and watch a couple of episodes of The Guardians, and if nothing else comes up, I might give another episode of this a go, because
yeah,
it as it went on, it did get for me. You're right about Edward Woodward. He's the draw here, isn't he? And
yeah,
you can see, you can see why he went on to to be the star that he was. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
Iwa Wuwa, if he had no D's in his name,
Oh dear.
famously. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. We all know that one, don't we? But yeah, 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 very much. So, well, I mean, and even then, he was a big star. I think he'd done the Callan. I think.
Callan, yeah, of course.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so that was a huge day show. So this was another big show for him. But yeah, I mean, we do know him as the Equalizer.
Yeah, and as the Virgin police officer in The Wicker Man.
Oh, of course, yeah, indeed, indeed, absolutely brilliant. Um,
The least
so,
believable bit of The Wicker Man, in my opinion, but okay.
um, but summing up though, Mark, three absolutely fascinating shows, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah. I'm really glad that you spotted these. I didn't do a lot of research on finding these particular shows, but it's something that I've always had a bit of an interest in: dystopian futures, retrofuturism, and any kind of, even, I mean, we didn't really do post-apocalypse this time,
No.
but you can see that it's probably not far off, possibly, from
There's
this. If these were to go on a bit longer, if these were to come back 20 years with the same characters, you wouldn't be surprised if something really nasty had happened.
yeah, 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 definitely. And I think you're right. And it is a fascinating sort of concept. Um, Obviously, it's been. I don't think maybe that we have enough. Shows like this. We could do with some more of them.
We're living it, though, so arguably, you know, do we need it? I want to see them, but this is the world we're living in now, or certainly the early stages of.
Yeah,
Do people want to watch the TV to get away from that, or do they want to watch it to see where we're going to be 5 years down the line when Pretty Patel's putting us in concentration camps because we're from the north?
yeah. Well, yeah, it does feel a bit like that,
Yeah.
doesn't it? I think. I think. If we if if we are going there to speculate now, there's not. It's funny because in like the Guardians, it's kind of hinted that Scotland's on its own. Um, Knights of God seems to be there the same. I'm not too sure about this one as of yet.
He
Um,
slags off Leeds at one point, doesn't he? he says, "Oh, not those, not those puppets in Leeds or something,
yeah,
or mannequins in Leeds." And I was kind of like, "Okay, I get it."
but yeah, I do think I will probably be living in a Scotland that's on its own. That's not part of making Britain great again. So
I'm moving 8 miles north if that happens.
yeah, 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 definitely. Um, but yeah, absolutely fascinating. Chilling, not as sort of chilling as maybe the first shows that we did do, but
No,
yeah, a really fascinating look at how sort of TV thought that things might sort of go, and yeah, definitely captured my imagination, and I will be going back to the Guardians and finishing that off because I was really struck by just how good it was. So, and a reminder for everyone: all three series are available to watch on the YouTube. So please do that, and they'll let us know what you think. So, Mark, what's happening with you?
we're having on 100 Things We Learned from Film. We're having a little hiatus from film. I know, because John, my co-host, is training for a new job, so we've had a few weeks off. So I've been talking facts lies, and rock and roll with a few different podcasters, couple of different podcasters every week, where they bring a song. Ian, you and I are going to find some time to do that for a Mannix song, because I know they're your favourite band.
Yeah, I've got an absolutely brilliant one as well.
So we'll be doing that. Meanwhile, if you like The Simpsons on your TV, then you can join me and Tom, where we talk everything we learned from The Simpsons about a different episode every week. The current episode, as this goes live, will be us talking about The Who and A Tale of Two Springfields. They're a bit right-wing these days, aren't they, The Who?
Oh, yeah.
They pulled the ladder up behind them. So, yeah, it's kind of in keeping a little bit with what we've talked about today.
Very good stuff. And, of course, Mark, you will be back very soon, very regularly, for Obi-Wan the Kenobi. So.
Really excited for that, because I honestly, and you know, Ian, and your listeners know from every episode I'm on, because I have to say it, I'm a semi-regular listener, but I can now I've caught up with Moon Knight. I can now catch up with your Moon Knight updates as well. So
excellent stuff.
Looking forward to. I really am enjoying that, and the chap that you've got really does know his Moon Knight stuff, doesn't he?
Nathan is absolutely excellent, and I must admit, when we were talking about episodes 2 and 3, he actually bowled me over by some of the stuff that he's picked up on. So.
Because you're used to discussing these Disney Plus things with a bloke who has no idea who anyone's called and what's going on. If anybody's listening, I think, Ian, are you still looking for someone to talk Ms. Marvel with us?
I am, actually. I am. Yeah. I would, and I don't want to sound funny, but I really want a woman to talk Miss Marvel with, because
as well you should.
Absolutely, because it's a female character, and it's funny. I saw a tweet just yesterday, or it was a retweet of someone, and this person had said, "Oh, I'm looking for a really good film podcast to listen to, blah blah blah, that's not hosted by the middle-aged men," and I was like, "Yep." Indeed.
We all.
So if you do fancy Miss Marvel, please do get in touch. You can email me at cultconnections95@gmail.com.
Do it. You won't regret it. It's always fun recording with you.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. But,
you were going to say it is, weren't you?
Of course it is. I have to pick myself up.
I think it is. I love my podcast.
Well, there no one else does, so there we go. But on that stupid note, after talking about 3 very serious shows, on that note, thank you very much. Thank you, Mark.
Cheers, mate.
And thanks for listening. Thank you.